Hi everyone, this video is now about us being able to move files around in the hierarchy. So obviously your main job will be when you're on your customer site installing your software, you're going to have to unpack the files so they'll be compressed. You maybe take them in a USB or a DVD, something like that. When you uncompress them, you then need to pop them into the right locations. Some of them also might need to be renamed. You might make mistakes, you might need to delete stuff. So I'm going to cover all those key areas. Then we're going to move on to talk about wildcards, which we'll talk about in a few minutes' time. Okay, let's get started. So again, I've logged back in as the Ron Wilson user, just because I've got quite a lot of files already created in there, so it makes it a lot easier for this particular video. First thing I'm going to do is going to copy a file within the directory. So as you can see here, here's a list of everything in my home directory. You'll recognise a couple of the ones that we created throughout the videos, so the test 123, the demo 1, the demo 2.txt. So quite often what you'll do is if you're editing a file, so say you've installed your software and there's a bug, so you will need to edit your actual code. Obviously the best and safest thing to do is to take a backup of anything before you make any changes. So quite often you will copy and make a backup of something. So the copy command is cp, short obviously for copy. It requires, obviously it requires arguments. It needs to know what file you want to copy and where you want to copy it to. So you need to give it 2 bits of information. So I am going to copy the Python file. So let's say I want to change my Python file and I want to back up first. So I'm going to copy python1.py and I'm going to copy it to python1.py.back. Again, .back is the extension that's commonly used to indicate it's a backup file. Not a requirement, but it's just good practice to have a kind of standard sort of set of naming conventions for your files. So what this will do is it will copy that file and it will copy it in the same location, so in the same directory, to another file with a different name, so with the same name but with the .back extension. So if I hit return, again remember it doesn't come back and tell us anything, which is a good thing, it means that it's worked, it's not been an error. And if I just want to check, let's use my up arrow to recall my ls command. You can now see that we have got a python1.py and a python1.py.back. So it's copied that file. Say you want to copy it to a different location though. So let's say I want to copy, for instance, the car hire file into the week 2 folder. So again, cp for copy, by default 2 arguments, source file, so what's your source you're copying from. So I'm going to copy car hire and where you're going to copy it to. So I'm going to copy it into week 2. Now if I leave it at that, what will happen is it will copy it into that folder and it will name the copy the same name as the original. Because I've not given a new name to the file for the destination, it will just use the same name as the original. So I've just said copy carhire.cs into the week 2 folder. So now if I do ls-l, and this time I want to list what's inside week 2, so I'm also going to give it an argument, week 2, then it will show us inside week 2 we now have a copy of the carhire.cs file. So as a copy, just to prove, you can see it still exists in this file, this directory as well. Say when I do copy something to a new location, so again let's copy the car hire again. So I'll say I copy car hire and I'm going to copy it into week 2, but this time I want to give it a different name. So what I'll do is I'll put in slash to say copy it into this folder, and when you copy it in, here's the name of the file I want you to give it. So let's say I call it myprogram.cs. So now instead of calling it carhire.cs, it's going to call it myprogram.cs. Actually, just to save confusion, I'm going to copy that into the week 3 folder, just because it's already got car hire in the week 2 one, just to prove that it does do what it says. So if I do ls-l, to get a long listing, and this time I'll look inside the week 3 folder. Is it there? Yeah, there it is, myprogram.cs. Okay. And again, you can copy files to any location you want. If you want to copy it somewhere completely different, you just need to provide, as the destination, you need to provide the full path. So either the absolute path from root of the destination or the relative path from your current location to the destination. So copying is something that you will use quite a lot. So let's now tidy up what we've just done. So I don't really want that file to be in the week 3 folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the week 3 directory. So cd, change directory into week 3. And again, just to show you what's in there, so we can see that I've just copied that myprogram.cs. I don't want it there, so I'm going to remove it. So I'm going to say rm myprogram.cs. So rm just means remove. And then if I do my listing again, so let's use my up arrow, you'll see it's now gone. So now I want to go back up a directory and into my week 2 folder. And again, let's look at what's in there. So I copied carhire.cs in there. So instead of removing it this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to rename a file. So say I've decided I don't want it to be called car hire anymore. So I've copied it in here and I want to change the name. So to change the name, we use the mv command, which it basically stands for move. Not a particularly good name, but it's saying move this file to a different name. Okay, it's rename. That's exactly what it's doing. It's renaming. So I'm saying rename carhire.cs to prog.cs. So I've renamed it. So again, let's list. Let's go up. Now we'll list it and you'll see it's no longer called carhire.cs, it's now called carprog.cs. So that was a couple of commands we looked at there. cp for copy, rm to delete. So why don't we just go ahead now and delete that file. rm to delete. And then the last one we looked at was the mv to rename a file. Right, so that's all good and well when we're dealing with individual files, but the reality is that quite often if you're wanting to move files around the place, you want to move more than one file at a time. So you can see how you would do it individually, but that's quite time consuming. So what we can do is we can speed things up and move things around in groups by using wildcards. So wildcards basically allow us to group together collections of files and perform commands on those groups of files rather than the command running on an individual file at a time. So if you look at the slides, I'm not going to talk through all the wildcards here. The slides explain the different wildcards. So basically we've got asterisk, which matches 1 or more. And we've got the question mark, which matches 1 occurrence. And we've got the square brackets, which match a range of values. So probably the most common one, to be honest, that we'll use is the asterisk, because you generally want to grab a whole chunk of stuff and move it somewhere. So I'm just going to show you a couple of examples of how to do that. So I'm going to go into the week 3 directory. So right now I'm in week 2. So let's actually have a look at our screenshot to see where we are. So we're back in Don Wilson. So right now I'm in week 2. So I'm down here. There's nothing in it because we've just removed that file. So I want to go into week 3, which you can see I've prepared quite a lot of files in there. So to go into week 3, there's no link between these two, so I actually have to go back up to Don Wilson and then along and down into week 3. So if we just do a pwd, you can see that to go to Don Wilson, if you look at the line above the prompt, I need to go back up 1 level. So cd ... and then after that, if we look at our drawing, so I'm now at Don Wilson, then I can just drop back down into week 3. So week 3. Cool. Right, and then let's list what's in there. So there's quite a lot of files in there, and you can see that how this looks. I've got it on the whiteboard, so that's a list of all the files. So right now we're in here, we're looking at all these files. So let's go back to our prompt. Okay, so let's say we want to copy everything in this entire directory into the week 1 directory. So that's basically me saying grab all this stuff and chuck it in here beside the demo folder in week 1. So to do that, I could say cp app1.cpp cp app2. So I could do individual copies, but that's far too time consuming. So what I can do is use a wildcard. So I can say copy, I want to copy everything. So star, copy every single thing. Now where do I want to copy it to? Well, I'm in here right now. I can't jump across to here because there's no link. So I have to go back up along to week 1. So back up to Don Wilson, along to week 1, and then drop it off. 2 choices. I can use relative, which is what I've just talked about. So based on where I currently am, up 1, along to week 1, drop it off. Or if you wanted to, you could use the absolute path. So I could say copy everything into /home/Don Wilson /week 1. So 2 options. So I could say /home/ and the nice thing here is you can actually use your escape to complete /week 1. So I could do that. That would work. But I'm going to do the relative one because everybody finds that more difficult. So let's do relative. So relative, actually before we do that, let's do a PWD so we can see where we are. So I need to go back up to Don Wilson. So copy star, so copy everything. Back up level, which will take me to Don Wilson, and then I need to go down into week 1. And that's it. Hit return. So now, if I want to have a look at what's in week 1, I can just say ls-l to get a long listing, and I need to go up 1, and then I can look at what's in week 1. So there you go, the demo folder's there, because that was originally there, and now it's also got all this stuff as well in the week 1. So we've managed to copy a whole chunk of stuff. Okay, let's say that we only want to copy the C++ files, so everything in the .cpp extension. So to do that, we can say grab everything, so it will match everything that has got a .cpp extension on the end. And again, copy that this time. Let's copy that into week 2. Okay, so just to prove ls-l, let's see what's in week 2. And you'll see it's copied all of the C++ files. So that's the asterisk. You can use that in any position in your file. So I used it saying anything that ends in .cpp. Similarly, I could have done cp, I'm not going to do it, but just to show you, I could have done copy everything that starts in ex to a new place. So hopefully you get the idea. Let's do one example using the question mark. Question marks, it's okay, but I've not really used it that much because all it does is it allows you to replace one single character. So looking here, we've got a couple of files called ex. We've got ex1, ex2, exprog1 and exprog2. Say I only wanted to copy the ex1 and ex2 files. So if I did cp ex star, then that would copy ex1, ex2, exprog1 and exprog2. So that isn't going to work. So what I can do though is I can use the question mark. If I can actually see where it is. 2 seconds. Here we go. So that basically says copy anything with the name ex followed by one character dot py. So that's going to match ex1.py and ex2.py. And let's copy them into the demo folder in week 1. So where's the demo folder? So right now we're in here, so I'm going to have to go back up 1 to Don Wilson, down into week 1, down into demo. So copy those files. So up to Don Wilson, down into week 1, and then into demo. Okay, so now let's list that. So list whatever's in week 1 demo, and you should see it should be ex1.py and ex2.py. Yep, it is. Superb. So that's an example of using the question mark. So wildcards are really, really useful. It's fine when you're just mucking around with individual files, but when you're trying to move big groups of files, they really do help you out. So have a wee go at playing around with the wildcards. You can use them in combination with each other as well. So you could set up a pattern match that's got the asterisk in it and the question mark and even the square brackets. You can use them all together. It starts to get a wee bit complicated then, but if that helps you to identify specific files, then absolutely that's allowed. So you can use them in conjunction with each other to do a really detailed pattern match. Okay guys, so that brings us to the end of this video. The next one we're going to look at is the final one for this week, which is file permissions. So that'll be what will be coming up next.